What a beautiful day on the mountain. Beautiful people.
Beautiful.
Welcome to the Beautiful People podcast. I'm your host, Taryn Johnson. I invite you to join me in this space where energy fuels your empowerment and transformation becomes a way of life. Listen in as I share stories of beautiful people learning to align with their true selves as they break free from limiting beliefs and become the beautiful creator of their reality. I know you are ready to step into your own empowerment, raise your frequency, and learn how to manifest a life that reflects your soul purpose. So let's kickstart that desire and learn how human design can amplify transformations in your life and increase the speed at which you reach your biggest life goals. This podcast will forever be dedicated to my sister-in-law, Kathy Johnson, who taught me just how beautiful life is and that everyone's story deserves to be shared. Now let's get started. Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for joining me on my first ever episode of the Beautiful People podcast. How are you doing?
I am doing fabulous. I am so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. It's just like a full circle moment, I feel like, for us and just our journey and where we've all come. And yeah, I'm just so excited. So do you want to give a little bit of an intro for yourself and just kind of explain what you do and who you are?
I would absolutely love to. Debbie Chamberlain. I am founder of Myndfulness Matters, but I spell it MY because mindfulness starts with your own personal practice. And when I first started this journey, I'm a retired elementary school teacher. So when I first started the journey in 2021, I wasn't quite sure where I was going to lead to, but now have found a love in children's books, which makes sense because I taught elementary school for 19 years. So now that I get to write my own books for kids, it's been super powerful. So I write books about mindfulness, about all different types of mindfulness topics, self-love, gratitude. I teach about the brain, how to build a calm corner, about mindful communication. I have several others in the works. So my passion and love is to try to bring mindfulness tools to children. And I still love to work with teens and adults as well.
Oh, I love that. I remember when we first met, you were still figuring out your journey and what direction you want to go. And I kind of want to tell our listeners a little bit about how we first met. So Debbie and I met, it was like an online Facebook group, I think was where we first started. And we started an event for building a vision board. And I had just moved to Arizona at the time. I'm not there anymore, but when I moved there, I wanted to meet new people. And Debbie offered to host this vision board class at her house. And I was like, that's great. Because I have like a 2-bedroom apartment and I don't want to host all these women at my apartment. So Debbie went and got like all these materials, and her daughter made a cute little like charcuterie board Christmas tree because it was in December. And we thought like we're gonna have like 13 people, I think, show up.
Yep.
I got there a little early, never met Debbie before, just barely talked. So kudos to me for going over to a stranger's house. But
That's
we
so
like
true.
just started talking, and I think we were like a half hour into talking, Debbie. We were just connecting on every level, and then we were like, wait, where is everyone? And I don't know what happened, but no one ended up showing up out of like everyone we invited, but it ended up being the best thing ever.
It was absolutely incredible. You're right. We didn't realize that people weren't coming because we were eating our cheese and our
Yes.
pepperonis and everything Kelly had made. And all of a sudden, the connection was so strong. I know that I was sharing stories about my mom with you, and I just felt like I felt like I had known you forever. And what's interesting too is even our age difference is so different.
Yeah.
So like our walks of life were so different, but it didn't matter. It felt like you were just part of my life forever. It was magical.
It was amazing. And for age context, Debbie has a son that is my age. So Debbie could technically be my mom, but we bonded, and there was just no even like a pause within what we were talking about. And we're so connected on so many levels. And a lot of our conversations initially were around grief, and I had lost my sister-in-law and you had lost your mom, and just the signs you were seeing from them and just different ways of healing. And it ended up turning into so much more of a deeper friendship. And then just helping each other like in our businesses and just growing from there. And it was such a beautiful connection. And when people ask me now, like, oh, how long have you known Debbie? I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been what, 2 years? I
I
know,
know.
which is crazy because it
I
feels
know.
like I should say 10. Yeah.
Yes, I know. I think my favorite story was when we got to Hallie and I got to make your cake for when we were doing your gender reveal. Yes, it's just so fun. It's so fun to think of the way we support each other both personally and then professionally when we did the alignment. We did an
Yeah.
alignment event together, all of our TikTok dances.
Yes. We just had so much fun building kind of our business. So Debbie was in the process of building Mindfulness Matters, and I was in the process of building my coaching business and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And it was when I was first starting to really dive deep into human design and understanding how to read charts and help people. And I remember being like, Debbie, I think I can answer a lot of like these unknown questions you've had. Can I do a human design reading on you? And I remember we learned like you were very like just sensitive to light. Do you remember like figuring that out and how you needed natural light to really help your brain think and process like full speed and just learning like you're here to bring energy to others and learning to say yes or no to things that light you up. And do you remember that reading? Do you want to touch back a little bit on those moments in your office when we got to talk about that?
Oh, I would love to. And it's funny you bring up the light because just 2 days ago, we were holding an event and somebody was like, oh, do we want the lights? I'm like, nope, nope, the lights need to go off. And I
Turn
thought
them
about that
off.
reading. I mean, it was something I didn't know. And being an elementary school teacher for as long as I was, you have the fluorescent lighting. And I always would try to like get them turned off, at least turn off one of the lights so it wasn't so bright. So having you validate that that's just it makes sense.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things like to do with human design is not necessarily educate others on exactly what it all means, but how can you be validated on what you've always been doing? And like then it makes sense once you've learned, oh, this is literally kind of like a part of my soul and who I am. And now I know that that's legit and I can honor that. And it just helps you find so much more alignment in your life.
Oh, I love that you use the word alignment. And I feel like it's just an awareness. With that awareness of the things that I learned, in our conversation, it helped me to make decisions that were best suited for me. So yes, let's talk about my reading and how it impacted my life. Because it was a
Yeah.
couple years ago that you did that
It
reading.
was. It
So yeah.
was. And so when I usually do my readings, I just use either like the My HD app or different things like online to just help figure out your centers. And I just remember talking about how you have a lot of like defined centers, but I think one of the biggest things like you and I were both struggling with was figuring out what we should say yes to and what we should say no to based on how it felt. And we both understood that we're emotional people and as we come through things, it's all about like the feeling and does it feel right to us? And how do we learn to say yes or no if it's outside of obligation and just wanting to do what we want to do and not what others think we should be doing?
Yeah, that was my biggest struggle. I would say I am throughout my entire life is that people pleasing part and is this going to work for the other person instead of thinking about me? And we talked about that and you always would say like, do I feel the yes? And so I ask myself now, since we had that
Yes.
conversation years ago, is do I feel the yes? And not like inside my body. Like, do I feel that excitement
Is it
energy
the
or do I,
excitement? Yes.
yeah, or the dread? So I ask myself that question, is this a full yes? Like, is this a full yes in my mind and my body and, my heart? And if it is, then I know I'm in alignment. If I can start to feel the anxiousness coming or the, sick feeling in my stomach or then I really need to stop and okay, it's not.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah.
if it's hard for people to say, we talk about like saying no, then just saying like, oh, it's not a right now, or it's not in alignment with me at this time, and just kind of pivoting from it. Cause sometimes it's really hard to say no, especially when it's things you really care about or they really care about. And you're just like, I think that something else would be better suited for it. And I think one of the biggest things I learned from saying no is when you say no, it opens up other doors for other people, even if you don't realize it. So if you get asked to do like an event and you're like, I don't feel excited about this, like I don't want to do it, they could go and ask another author if they want to do it. And that could be absolutely in alignment for that author. But then you could get asked by a bigger event to come do something. And that's what you were truly meant to be doing in the first place.
Oh, that's so true. I always think of the like quote, rejection is redirection. And so sometimes when somebody else is telling me no, I'm like, well, that means something else is going to open, but then also just like what you said with sometimes it's not part of my dharma. It's not part of what I'm meant to do. It's part of somebody else's gift that they get to share with the world. So I picture, this happened actually just a couple of days ago. Exactly what you said with the author.
Yeah.
Somebody else was, chosen to be in an author thing versus me. And I, you have the initial, got to name it to tame it. So I had the initial, oh, and then I pictured that person, like, of course she's going to be perfect for this. Like, and then I just pictured the kids, how great they're going to have, she's an illustrator too. And so they're going to get to do all, I was so excited for her. And that felt so good. So yeah.
Wait, so that's the exact situation just happened where you said, did you say
Yeah.
no to the
2 days
event?
ago.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's so funny. I didn't know that.
I know. That's why I thought it was funny you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, just channeling over here. It's fine.
I know. It is. It's magical every time we get together.
I know. The sparks just fly. And then where are you right now with Mindfulness Matters? Are you still publishing books, and how has that been going and all of that?
Well, this is fun. So since I retired from teaching, I always had a vision that I'd be able to teach after school clubs. And I was teaching them in the district I was in, but it wasn't working out for me to be able to do that at that district anymore. So I've just, you have to be approved to be in these districts. And so I fill out these like forms, and you have to go through the school board. And I did get approved through a district, and my classes started filling up. And so like next week, I get to start teaching after school. And I have been manifesting that. I have been visualizing that since I retired, and it's happening next week. And I'm so like, this morning I went on, and they have like a little platform that you see like how many signed up, and like it said Mindfulness Matters, and it said popular like under it, saying that was one of the classes that was a lot of people were signing up for the day. So I'm so happy to be able to do that, because these now each week I'll be focusing on a book, and then I'll teach the concept in the book, and then we'll do like a craft, and we'll do some yoga, and we'll do, so I'm very excited about that.
Oh, that's so exciting. And I know that with our listeners, I obviously know a lot of the books, because what some people don't know is I helped Debbie edit some of her first few books when she was coming out with them, because I love just helping her with the words and just making things like flow. Debbie and I get along really well, and I feel like I can always channel like what she wants the book to say and how it should be said. And so I know what your books are about, but do you want to share a little bit about where your books came from and kind of what theme you follow with your kids' books?
Oh, I would love to. And I do want to say thank you, because you are exactly right. There are times I don't know what I want to say, but you know what I want to say.
Yes.
And you have such a gift for not only editing content, for the grammatical part, and for the, just the content of really getting the message across. You really think through things. And then you're seriously gifted at Canva and the way that you can get
Thank you.
So kudos to you, and thank you. These books would not be out if it were not for you, because Busy Bee was the first one we did together, and that was my third one, and that was my heart, but then your knowledge brought them together. So thank you. So yeah, all of my books, I have 7, almost 8 out. And the first one is about, I actually wrote it during, while I was teaching during COVID. And so our kids and I created mindful moments, and I had them on Google Slides. And then I'm like, I'm going to figure out how to do a book. I had no idea how to do it. I had to research, figured out Amazon, figured out KDP, had to figure out the formatting for that, had to figure out all the things. But I did it.
Yeah.
Published it. And then the second one is Mindful Miley, MY. I had to have an MY name. And interesting enough, Miley, I was working with somebody, and they were like, oh yeah. I'm like, yeah, I had to do MY because mindfulness matters. Like, oh no, don't you see what it is? And it's my lie. Like, that's the words. And the reason why is because she was Miley is me as a kindergartner, and thinking I was always going to live in anxiety. Like that was, because I had, severe anxiety throughout my life. And it really was the lie. I don't have to live with anxiety my whole life because I can use my breath just like Miley does in her book. She learns when she's in kindergarten that she can use her breath to help calm her. So, I thought that was really interesting, that because I didn't do that. Somebody brought that to my attention. So, and then Busy Bee is all about learning how to be and being
Yes.
present in the moment. So this is where I switched to the bugs. So now they're all
Mhm.
bug themed. So then the next one was Lily, the lovable ladybug, all about kindness. She helps all the bug friends. Then she looks in the reflection of the pond, realizes that she still has one more bug to help, and that's herself. And so it's all about how to love yourself while you're helping others. And then I have, after that was Gus the grumpy grasshopper, finds gratitude, super grumpy, but his bug friends help him find gratitude. And then Colby Caterpillar creates calm. So how to create a calm center, like either in your home or your classroom, or how you can use kind of external things to help bring you calm, like blankets or stuffed animals. And then Sammy Spider Speaks is all about mindful communication. And then Nana Ant and Annie is going to be coming out in March. And so, yeah, they're all, what's great about it is my teacher brain and my parent brain, they're all super easy for if you didn't know anything about mindfulness, you could read them and there's activities within them. So you could, just share it with your families super easily.
I'm smiling ear to ear because when I first met Debbie, this bugland only existed in her head and they did not exist on paper. It was like, Debbie, what do you want your books to be about? And you were like, I want to create a whole mindful bugland. And I'm like, what better thing do kids love than like insects and bugs? And I see bees all over now and I'm like, oh, it's busy bee. Like, this is a sign I learned. Just got to calm down a little bit. And like, not only I think are these books great for kids, but even parents being able to read them to their kids, like with my 1 year old and just being able to apply that knowledge, like, okay, I might need to quick do a little grasshopper breath because I'm getting grumpy right now. And just it helps so much. And you've just created this amazing world and this amazing land within mindfulness and really bringing it out through your books and illustrations and just your message behind all of them. And it's just so powerful.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I love to think that you're doing grasshopper breath. That makes me so happy. And I love that you're teaching your 1 year old. And some people will tell me, oh, my child's so young. No, 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 no. Start this from the moment that they actually start it before
In
they're
the
even
womb.
born.
We did it in
Take,
the womb. We started reading them.
yes,
Yep.
yes, like take, and even like your regulated nervous system as an adult is the best gift that you can give to everybody in your life, but especially our younger population because their nervous systems and their brains aren't fully developed the way that ours are. So
Mhm.
when we are regulated, so that's why I love this. When I'm reading these books and I'm leading a mindful moment, I'm breathing myself, which means my parasympathetic nervous system is kicking in. And the mirror neurons means that the kids that are around me are going to feel that. And so if
Mhm.
you're a parent, if you work with kids in any capacity, yeah, breathe.
Yeah. And with the parasympathetic, it's that fight or flight that you're calming down the kids and just bring them into their calm and control. And I think a lot of people don't realize that children don't have like these set skills. Like we as parents and adults are teaching them these skills and their brains are sponges from 0 to 7. They're transforming and learning all their own beliefs. And with your books, you're just helping instill so many good, positive values into their little brains. And it's just so impactful because they're able to learn in such a healthy way and in a fun way.
Ah, yeah, I love that you said that healthy. And then it is fun. It's fun when you teach kids how to do rainbow breath and hot chocolate breath. And when you teach them about their brain, I will teach preschoolers. I will teach 3 and 4 year olds about their amygdala, their prefrontal cortex, their hippocampus. I have little like puppets that I use, like the wise owl for the prefrontal cortex or the security guard for the amygdala, the elephant for the hippocampus because it never forgets. So, understanding that all different parts of our brain serve as a purpose of helping us as humans. And when kids understand that, oh, I feel these emotions and that's okay. And this is what's happening neurologically. this is what's happening in my body and my nervous system. You can teach kids this and they're like, oh, then it takes the judgment out of, well, I shouldn't be mad or I shouldn't be. No, everybody feels that way. And here's what's happening in your body. And here's, which tool are you going to use to help you? Is it gratitude? Is it your breath work? Is it a positive affirmation? Is it grounding in your senses? It's just fun. So I love that you use that word fun.
Yeah. And I think it's really just going to be so significant too, because I think as each generation ages, we see different trends in mental health. So right now within my generation, it's like therapy is cool. Finding out that you have trauma that might not have been healed from your parents and even their grandparents that was passed down genetically, and that we're healing it now as parents for our kids. But then you're teaching our children to heal even maybe small traumas that they're already absorbing in at such a young age, so that when they get older, they know how to regulate their nervous system. They know how to go through their emotions. And it's just so, so impactful because they're not going to have to do as much work when they're adults as they are during teenage years, because they can call on these tools they learn at such a young age and just becoming kind of a part of who they are. And it's just so amazing that you're able to do that at such a young level for these kids.
Ah, and I love everything that you just said, because you're right. Just imagine if I didn't know about longer exhales activating my parasympathetic nervous system until I was 40. If I would have known that at 5 and I just had that as part of my practice my whole life, that would guaranteed have been able to help support me when I was, when I suffered with anxiety. I mean, I would have anxiety attacks. I didn't know how to regulate my system. I just thought that there was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
I don't have them anymore. And, and if I do feel one coming on, I have a whole bunch of tools to be able to, oh, it's just, you know what? My amygdala is activated. I'm in sympathetic. I need to get into parasympathetic. Here's what I'm going to do. It seriously has been life-changing for me. And so if I can help as many children as I can to learn these tools, that's my goal.
Yeah. Well, in a way, it's kind of good that you didn't learn about it till you were 40, because we would not have this beautiful bug land from all your own experiences of dealing with stress and anxiety and just the whole body feels that we get when we have those emotions and depression, and just being able to put it into such smaller words and not as scary for the kids is just a great power to be able to have and wield. And you're in the process of doing all that.
Yeah, I'm having so much fun. I mean, I have one coming out, Willy Worm Wiggles, and it's all about, Miley's Magical Mind is coming out and that as well. My goal is to have these out by the end of the year, and I'm so excited about that, teaching kids about the brain. And yeah, this is joy.
Yeah. And I like what you said too, like what they're experiencing is such normal kid behavior. And you're not only giving them the tools, but you're helping other teachers build classrooms around the children's emotions. Like I was one of those kids who could not sit still on a desk, and I needed to be talking because that's how I learned. So I would get put on my own desk island and have folders up as walls and just be isolated from the class so I wasn't disruptive. And I was like, if someone could have just told me to maybe breathe a little more, or like exhale longer, or like go for a quick walk, or just use a tool instead of like being isolated, I think that would have been so much more impactful, instead of me being older and being like, there's nothing wrong with me being the wiggly person. And they have great wiggly office chairs now if I want to, you know what I mean? Like, it's okay when you're that young. You should be able to wanting to move and need to get up. And you're just bringing that to the classroom too, and educating teachers as well.
Oh yeah, that's definitely, yeah. I mean, it's in kids' natural tendencies to want to move, to want, so why are we combating things that are just part of natural, the way that they're supposed to be? So yeah, being in the classroom as long as I was, I saw a huge shift in, we didn't talk a lot about, it was more when I went to college, it was more like, what are your classroom procedures? Like those were the type of class we took, like, meaning, what are your classroom rules going to be? That kind of thing. Now you can kind of feel a shift to, let's look at the whole child. Like, let's, understand that I would never, like, and especially when I do teacher presentations, I would never say to a child, put a book in front of them and just say, read. You
Mm-hmm.
teach them the letter sound, you teach them that there's certain steps to get them to read. I mean, anybody would think that I was, crazy if I was trying to do it that way. But when, it's the same thing with social and emotional learning. We have to teach kids, here's, tools to help manage your emotions, teach them about empathy, teach them about how to communicate with others. Like it
Mm-hmm.
needs to be taught. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. One of my favorite things that I've been starting to do is taking mom human design charts and then showing them what their kids' charts look like. Since they
Oh,
know their birthday and their time, like you're not guessing or anything, but just being like, hey, like my daughter, she has the same, it's called the ego center, which is kind of like, I would explain it as like your battery. There's some people who are born to go, 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 go. If they're doing what they love, they could just keep on doing it and feel lit up because they're meant to just generate all this energy for others. That's 30% of the entire population has that battery. The 70%, which W you have, is you need a break. You need to just unwind. You need to find ways to relax and to calm yourself down and to chill. And that's when you get back into your own alignment and you feel at your best. Obviously, society does not set us always up for that. They want us to keep going and realizing that, hey, you might have a child that has that battery where you're going to need to keep them going until they get exhausted for bedtime and doing things that they want to do. Or you might have a child that needs their breaks. They need their alone time. They need their calm space. They need these things that support them because that's kind of how they're hardwired and how their soul is meant to be living. And it's so cool that you can read that at such a young age or know, like, hey, like your child might be doing really good if they eat the same thing every day, or they'll probably have less behaviors if you're not forcing new things because that's just not how they're wired right now. And just realizing that can be like so impactful and so cool.
wow. I would have loved to have had something like that with all three of my kids because I imagine that all three of them would have a different story because we're all
Yeah.
individuals. But to understand again that I think about that word awareness. Now I know I can do this. And when you said that, it made me think because I am somebody who requires a lot of rest, but I lived a life, my whole life of being the busy bee.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense that I would have anxiety because I was
Yeah,
working against what was naturally, am I understanding this right? I was working
exactly.
against what was natural for me.
Yep,
So now
exactly.
that I've incorporated more of this in my life, I'm more in a flow because I'm not working against myself.
Yep, perfectly said. And that's what's so great is learning about that because anxiety usually is just yourself living out of that alignment and you're not being in sync with what you really want to be doing and should be doing. It's almost like when you're running on a treadmill, but you want to be walking, and like it just feels like that you're stuck in that constant flow. And all you have to do is click the off button, realize it's okay to step off the treadmill and maybe go sit in the sauna for a second. It's okay. Like the rest of your journey will progress, but just having that confidence to be like, no, this is how I feel and who I am, and this is what I want to do. And just tying it all together and at a young age can be so impactful and decreasing our
Oh,
anxiety too. And I love doing the holistic too, like instead of trying to slap on new medications, like what other ways can we doing to start them off young to learn to regulate their anxiety and their depression. And it can just be so great for the family too.
yes. Oh, yeah. Thank you for bringing all of this to my attention because having that reading a couple of years ago and just the little tidbits that you shared with me then, even this conversation is making me realize how the decisions that I've made over the last couple of years, because I had that reading, helped me become more in alignment with where I am today. I mean, that's probably why I could go from, the 2 books when I first met you to now almost 8,
Yeah,
you know?
you're working in your alignment. And when you're in that flow, things come to you so naturally. You're not forcing anything. It doesn't feel like you're stretching or pulling for things. You're like, why is this not happening? Like it just flows. And that's when you're at your best self. And like you said, you're living in your dharma. And it just is such a great feeling when you can find that alignment. And immediately that feeling when you start going out of that alignment. You're like, okay, I kind of have the ick, like something's off here. Where can I pivot back to? You know?
Yeah, I love that you use that word because that's how it feels. And
Yeah.
I can instantly feel, oh, yeah, it's not there. I can feel the vibration going lower. And so what do I need to do to, and interesting that you say that now, that reminding me of the necessity of me to rest is usually it means I need to rest when I start getting out of alignment. I need to, instead of do more, I actually need to do less so that I can do more.
Exactly. You need to stop and go backward before you can keep going forward. Because once you take that pause, you can go forward even quicker than before. It's so funny because one of my telltale signs of when I'm getting out of alignment is when I start yawning. It
Oh,
sounds so bad, but if I'm talking to someone, I all of a sudden feel really tired or like the urge to yawn. I'm like, okay, I'm putting out too much energy. I need to take a step back. Like this conversation or this event or this thing is no longer in line with me, because if I'm physically yawning, that means my brain's getting tired, my body's getting tired. And as soon as I remove myself from that situation, I'm like, oh, my energy's back. Like it's so yeah, I would challenge you to, like, next time you start yawning, you're like, okay, what is making me yawn like midday? Like what is going on here? And it's been
yeah.
like so fascinating. Like usually I'll go for a walk then, or like leave the building I'm in, or do something to kind of switch it up and be like, okay, what does my body and my brain need to get me back to that energetic state that I was like just in?
Yeah. Okay, so that's another gem that you just said. What does my body need? What does my mind need? I think
Yeah.
those are my biggest things that I have to stop and ask myself often is, where's my
Mm-hmm.
body at? How am I feeling in my body? Where am I at in my mind? And when I do that, I do feel like I can, and I say accomplish, but I don't mean, that's one thing I've been able to kind of let go of a little bit, is the need to like do the accomplish all the
Yeah.
time because of the need for rest, but just where's my mind? Where's my body?
Yeah. And it's so you can move forward without
Yeah.
resistance. It's like the path feels so much smoother. And I always explain to people like alignment is, say you're walking this like beautiful path in the woods or like up a mountain, and the path in front of you is perfect. It's gravel, it's whatever you'd want it to be that helps you get to the mountaintop or through the forest the fastest. But as soon as you start falling out of alignment, it's like you take a step into the woods and then you go a little further into the woods. And then you stop when you realize you're like, oh my gosh, I'm literally like climbing over tree roots. I'm in the branches. I'm getting hit in the face with things. Like, what can you do to pivot, turn around, and get back on your path? And like that's what alignment feels like, is like, okay, why am I veering? Which direction? What pulled me off this way? And how can I get back to that feeling of ease and like letting it come to me?
Yeah. Oh, I love that visual. The
Mm-hmm.
feeling of ease of like how to stay on the path. And
Yeah.
then I think too, to extend on that, maybe just as a personal thing, like when I leave the path, sometimes I can find magic in the forest, that, and to not have judgment for myself about
Yes.
going into like the forest was a nice place to visit. Now, let's get back to
Yeah.
that.
Exactly. And like the forest is never a bad thing. Like you're still going to get to your destination, right? It's just a little bit
Yeah.
more difficult. And it sometimes is such a good tool to get you back to it, because there could be a really pretty view of the waterfall to your right. And you absolutely are welcome to trek through it. But then you can go back to and come back in alignment and apply those lessons you learned or what you saw and needed at that time to keep going in your forward path.
Oh, see, now I have another gem from you. So seeing the waterfall and the lesson in the waterfall, so that I
Yes,
can go back on the path. Because it's hard. I
exactly.
mean, it's almost impossible to
No,
constantly stay
you'll
on the path. So
never
that's,
be.
oh, that's
Yes.
amazing.
Yep.
See?
But that feeling is finding
Yeah.
the path again
Yeah.
and seeing where else it can take you.
Yeah. Okay. Now I have that whole thing in my mind. Thank you for that.
Oh my gosh, of course. Yeah. It's just one of my favorite visuals, and just always bringing nature into things, and
Oh
it's so
yeah.
great.
Nature's healing for sure.
Yeah. I remember when we were living in Arizona, it was one of my favorite things because you could always find grass to like put your bare feet in. You could just connect back to earth at any time. And now there's like, I'm in Wisconsin again. So there's like, I swear, like half a foot of snow on the ground. And sometimes this sounds so wild, but if there's like a patch of grass, I'll literally be like, okay, this is gonna be cold, but I'll quick take my shoes off and put my feet in the grass. But I kid you not, as soon as I do, the grass underneath me gets so warm, and it's like you have that connection again. And it
I
just
love
is
that you
so,
do that.
I know you should see. I'm sure. I'm like, are any neighbors watching right now? Because I don't need them like, why is this person standing barefoot in like -6-degree weather outside? But it's just so good to get just back to that grounded state too. So that's another tidbit I like to do, is just find that grass and reconnect so you can full heal. But
Yeah. That's like when I do yoga and you go down and you're about to do a cobra, but before you do cobra and you do your chaturanga and I just have my whole body down. When your whole body is on the earth, you just feel so grounded. But when you're in
Mhm.
nature and you can do and have your whole body on the earth, oh, that
Yeah,
feels amazing.
exactly. That's like just a quick boost of getting back to how you want to feel. And it's so interesting because I think a lot of people always talk about how they want to get back to how they felt as a child, like that, like
Mm.
it's so freeing and like there's no worries and nothing has to stress you out. And I think that's like such a big part of when you're able to live in alignment. It's like almost all that stress and all those worries, they do dissipate and they do get smaller. And it's like you're able to bring yourself back to your core self and like kind of like who you were when you first got to experience Earth from like the child's eyes. And I like love being able to get people to that kind of like that state and that mentality.
Yeah, the beginner's mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is powerful for sure.
I'm sure you feel that way when you get to create and like make your books because you're able to just tap into that creative innate side and like let it come out onto paper.
That's so true. I think you're right because I do channel. I feel like it's inner child work that I'm doing as I'm
Hmm.
writing these. And I have a picture of myself as a second grader in one of the books because my anxiety was so bad that it was very difficult for me to go to school. It was very difficult for me to just show up in life. I was 8 years old. I mean, it started so early in my life that, yeah, to be able to write these is so healing for my, 8-year-old self, but then also to think that the other 8-year-olds out there that are going to need is so rewarding to think
Yeah,
that I can help other kiddos.
that's so exciting. Okay, Debbie, so where can we find more information like on your books or where can we just get more info if we want to discover more about Mindfulness Matters?
Yay. So I do have a website, www.mindfulnessmatters.com, but mindfulness spelled MY. And all of my books are available on Amazon, so you can go there. I do have fun story kits that I create with all the books. So it is the book, a journal, different types of mindfulness tools that's with the book. It has a little breathing buddy, like I call it a breathing bug because they're little bugs that they can use to breathe with. And those are all available on mindfulness on the website. So yeah.
Oh
And
my
then of
gosh,
course I'm on
that's awesome.
Instagram, mindfulness matters, mindfulness_matters, Facebook. I have a YouTube, TikTok,
You
all the
got it
things.
all.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for your time, Debbie. I really appreciate our conversation and just getting to just reconnect again because it's been a minute since I left. So good to see you and hear from you.
Good to see you too. Thank you for everything that you have done to enrich and enhance my life. I
Always,
really
always be
appreciate
here.
you.
Of course. Well, thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Be Beautiful People podcast. For more information on Mindfulness Matters or to purchase a book, visit www.mindfulnessmatters.com. For more information on working one-on-one with me, group coaching, or joining my membership, please visit TaronJohnson.com or check out @It's Taron Johnson on social media. Have a story you want to share on the podcast? DM me or send an email to Taron@TaronJohnson.com. Thank you, and now go enjoy the rest of your beautiful day.